My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/campaign to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Move your career further, faster in just 2 days with a Harvard Professional and Executive Development Program. Advance your leadership skills, craft smarter business strategies, build your network, and transform how you work and think to keep your career moving forward. You'll earn a certificate and can add Harvard to your resume with Harvard Professional and Executive Development. Learn more at professional.dce.harvard.edu/Spotify.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
The inner circle is shaken by the king of Hybern's most recent attempt to kidnap Nesta from Valaris. Asriel's suspicions about Elain's status as seer are confirmed, and Lucien volunteers to search for the Firebird Queen Elain continues to see in her visions. While Amren's hunt results in no other Hybern intruders, the enemy reappears in unlikely places.
The views expressed by the hosts are entirely their own and in no way represent the thoughts or intentions of the original author. This podcast is a discussion shared to spark thought and conversation on characters and themes of this novel.
Though the hosts speak mostly within the constraints of this book, series spoilers may be discussed with or without warning. Explicit language, as well as themes of sex, violence, abuse, death, and depression will recur throughout the podcast. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Book Talk for Book Talk, a podcast where we deep dive into the writing of your favorite novels.
This season, we're exploring Sarah J. Maas's most ambitious novel in the Court of Thorns and Roses series.
This is Jack.
And I'm Amy.
This week, we're discussing chapters 32 through 34 in A Court of Wings and Ruin. This week, we ask ourselves, how does guilt influence everyone's actions?
The theme we see in this section is the monster within. Chapter 32 opens with Cassian, Nesta, and Feyre in the House of Wind, waiting for Rhys as they drink brandy. Note that Nesta drinks her glass in a single gulp, while Feyre struggles to even sip hers. Silver Flames foreshadowing, anyone?
To me, this also continues the setup of good sister versus bad sister. We've had plenty of moments like that throughout this book and even past books, but it's just moments like this where Nesta gulps the brandy in one gulp and Feyre doesn't. It's just subtle moments where SJM's trying to drive the point home.
And bias the reader, which is so funny because she has a lot of work to undo when we get to Silver Flames.
Right? And honestly, respect that Nesta can throw back brandy like that.
Ugh,
right?
Yeah.
I can't at all.
I don't think I've ever tried.
Throw back brandy? You've tried brandy before?
No.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Really?
Are you saying we now need to go try this after we're done?
I mean, no, I don't have any good ones here. I'm just surprised that my ex didn't have you. Wow.
I haven't had brown liquor since my 20s.
Oh, shit, man. All right. Well, yeah, we're going to have to try it. Not immediately after this. I have to mentally, emotionally, and physically prepare for that. It's nasty. You'll actually love it.
I doubt that, but I'll stay optimistic.
No, I just imagine you I imagine you with a brandy in one hand, a cigar in the other.
Ugh.
For some reason, you're now talking like this, and you call everyone toots.
From a Marxist perspective, Cassian is trying to console himself and the Archeron sisters by giving everyone alcohol. They are collectively trying to gain back any sense of power they feel they ought to have as the inner circle, especially in their own home.
To keep going with that idea, Nesta welcomes power back. She drinks it in one gulp, like the badass that she is. Feyre has to be ordered by Cassian to drink. And it's not a gentle suggestion. It's, quote, an order. And there's, quote again, wrath in his words as well. Note, Feyre doesn't drink anymore. She lets the offer of power go, and then they all sit in silence while they wait for Rhys.
Because that's how you take back your power.
I could never. I'd feel like so awkward.
You'd be like, we have to talk about this, guys, right now.
I know. I'd be like, hey, look, I know we're all still processing in our, our moments, but like, we almost died. So can we just talk about it, please?
I need to process aloud.
I'd be crying.
When Rhys walks into the room, we see his monster within, or at least in my opinion. Quote, blood coated his hands, but nothing else. So much blood, ruby bright in the mid-morning sun, like he'd clawed through them, the ravens, with his bare hands. His eyes were wholly frozen with rage. Ruby, like the blood rubies Tarquin sent, but also a treasure, a jewel and proof of Rhys's love for Feyre, especially when seen in the mid-morning sun.
Such a good point. I love it. I also want to point out that Rhys is choosing to be seen with blood coating him. He could have cleaned himself up with magic like he normally does with Feyre, but that's not what happened here. Rhys appears as if he, quote, clawed through them with his bare hands. So we can just imagine how bloody he really is. Now, just because I'm saying that Rhys left himself dirty on purpose and wants to be seen, doesn't mean that I think he's trying to be a cocky badass. Instead, I believe Rhys is constantly testing Feyre to see if she can still love that monster within him. Rhys does these horrible things to Mor, to the Ravens, to even Feyre herself, and if Feyre is still able to be by his side, then he can still value himself in some regards. I think Rhys walks in like he does to show how horrible he is and so that he can seek Feyre's forgiveness for his actions later.
I didn't really process this point until now. Didn't process it during prep at all.
Nice. Love it. Love to hear it.
And I like your point. I'm wondering, is he testing Feyre to see if she's capable of forgiving him? Is it almost like, I want to see how far I can push you until you give up on me because I don't feel worthy of your love?
Yeah, I don't think he wants her forgiveness.
Yeah. I don't think he thinks Feyre's capable of forgiving him because he's so villainous.
Exactly. And this is his true villain moment. Like, he tore those two up with his hands, and we'll hear later that he wanted to feel it. And, and I don't think he feels bad about it. I think he feels more horrified by it, but I am almost like kind of see him being like, good, don't forgive me. I am a monster. You shouldn't even be able to look at me.
Yeah. That would almost make his desire to sacrifice himself more justified if Feyre's not capable of forgiving him.
Exactly. It's just like every time she forgives him and every time she's able to move past something, it just like ruins his plans more.
It's true. It's true. And then he feels like, oh, but I need to die for you.
Yeah. But it's supposed to be easier because I'm a piece of shit.
Right?
Yeah. But he's not.
He's not.
No, we love him. We love us some Rhys.
He just needs some therapy.
Oh, yeah. Sexy chicken therapy.
We're going to see how cold continues to be associated with Rhys. I can't tell you why, but it's been there since Mist and Fury. And I'll point it out because maybe one day it will be significant.
Spoiler warning to multiverse. Okay. Now that that's said, I think people theorize that this is potentially a connection between Rhys and the Valg in Throne of Glass. Like, I know people have said something there. I just wish that I could remember Throne of Glass well enough.
Yeah, and I know nothing, but the references to Rhys and Cold are very, very prevalent in this book and the previous book, and I've always noticed them, so I feel like they're significant.
They are. We just don't know why.
Yeah, we don't know
Other
why.
people do, but we don't.
Note that Cassian is, quote, stone-faced, glancing between Rhys's bloody hands and his ice-cold eyes. In the next scene, we'll see Asriel's, quote, eyes also lingered on the blood-crusting Rhys's hands. When you think about it, Rhys doesn't need to use his hands to kill. He has his Daemati powers and many other magical abilities that allow him to kill without being physical. Therefore, his hands don't have to be, and maybe shouldn't be, bloody. I personally think Cassian and Asriel are spooked by the sight of blood on Rhys's hands. Maybe it's something they haven't seen in a long time, something they expect to do for their High Lord and not to be done by their High Lord.
Absolutely. I bet over the course of his 500 years, he's probably lost control like that only a select number of times. And Cassian and Azriel are probably like, shit, this is serious. He hasn't done that since 92.
Right. And if they compare it to the times where he has done it of like, oh, is that bad? Oh, shit.
Yeah. We're that level of serious. I'm trying to think if you and I have like tells like that. I think when I ask you to make me a drink, because I don't drink that much.
Oh, yeah.
So when I'm coming over, I can't remember when the last time that happened, but I remember I was like on my way over and I just called you and I was like, make me a drink, and hung up.
Yeah, make me a drink. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because usually I'm the one like, hey, I'm making myself a gin and tonic. Would you like something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for you to be like, I need a drink.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what yours is. I need Korean barbecue. No.
Sometimes, yes.
Maybe. We're so different than Reese.
It's true. It's true.
It's not blood in our hands.
No, we don't need to rip things apart.
No.
We talked last week about Nesta choosing to run after Feyre instructs her to. We see the consequences of that. Feyre notices Nesta's expression showing, quote, fear and guilt and some other feeling. You told me to run, Nesta says. You're my sister, says Feyre. She'd once tried to cross the wall to save me. First off, Feyre is willing to accept so little, one moment of effort on her sister's part, in order for Feyre herself to sacrifice everything for Nesta. Feyre loves very, very deeply, for better or for worse. And I don't mean to minimize what Nesta did, but it's not at the level of Feyre.
No, it's not. And, you know, right now with Wings and Ruin, we're harping on Feyre a lot. But, you know, again, we're trying to knock her down and build her back up because character development. But at the same time, Feyre is so willing to forgive and let go for such a small amount of action for her.
Mm-hmm. That's why she's able to forgive Rhys for his shitty big actions because they're for her.
Yeah, exactly. Her ability to forgive is vast.
Knows no bounds. Except for when it comes to Tamlin.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it'll be interesting when we talk about it at the end, but
yeah.
I think she's forgiven Tamlin.
She does eventually, yeah.
Yeah, by the end of this book.
Mm-hmm.
All you got to do is bring back her mate.
Yep. And then all is forgiven.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
She's pretty beat up about it.
Yeah, I was like, you know, like as far as you can go, yes, that is a pretty good thing.
Yeah. Although Nesta maybe expresses surprise to Feyre about telling her to run, I think this is a really touching moment where we see that the sisters really, really care about each other. It's too bad this whole novel ruins these connections and intimate moments by the end of it.
Pisses me off. Pisses me off when it's ruined like that. It's always with these two. The moment of sisterly love is ruined, but this time it's by Nesta's worry for Elain. And I think that there's a very specific reason that Nesta's worried about Elain, and not just because of her usual protectiveness. Feyre just had a moment of, I'll be there for you, sisterly love, and Nesta probably feels like she failed her baby sister. So what can she do? Well, nothing for Feyre, and might as well try to protect the one sister that she's always looked out for and is capable of looking out for, because Nesta isn't capable of looking out for Feyre, never has. Not never will, but like she's just never been able to protect her like that up to this point. Feyre is stronger than Nesta in so many different ways.
Right. And so Nesta, frankly, just doesn't try anymore.
Yeah. And then she's just, I'm sure it's a moment of like, shit, you're being there kind for me. Let me go to the one that I can at least look out for.
Right. The one that's not as strong as me.
Yeah.
Or Feyre.
Little do they know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. We're not
we
at
don't
Elaine's
know yet.
book.
We don't know yet. To dovetail off that thought and go back to what we were saying before, it makes sense then why Feyre's willing to accept so little from Nesta chasing after her in ACOTAR, because Nesta doesn't try with Feyre.
Yeah.
So the fact that she tried one time means the world to her.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the thing where you have to accept what you can get sometimes.
Yeah.
If it's a person that you feel like you can't just walk away from.
Yeah.
You have to accept that their level of kindness is not going to be the level of kindness of others.
Right. And you take those love crumbs that you can get.
That's not healthy. Like we're not condoning this.
That's just how it is right now. For
Absolutely.
Feyre and Nesta.
You know, don't eat love crumbs. Eat a love baguette.
Yeah.
Nice, filling, giant bread of love.
With some brie.
And brie. Love brie. I love brie, but have love brie with your love bread.
Yes. I want to make a side comment that the whole, quote, fleeting spell plot device, specifically the spell the King of Hybern can use from his spellbook only once to bring down the wards around Velaris, the same spellbook, by the way, Amarantha used to curse Tamlin in the Spring Court, it feels really, really convenient to me. In fact, I think what makes it worse is Rhys knows about the existence of the spell, or is he just assuming? Like, I don't understand this plot device at all.
I understand the moment of confusion, because when I read that too, I'm like, well, then what you knew about this then? What the hell? And if it's a spell like that, then shouldn't they have planned for it? Mm-hmm. So as I was writing my notes, I typed in gasp, because I gasped. Okay, so this is all hypothetical. I'm not here to start shit, but I am. What if Rhys did plan for this? So hear me out. It seems like the obvious move for Hybern, right? And Rhys clearly knew about the spell. He knew Hybern would eventually break in. I think it's also safe to say that Feyre was probably never the one that Hybern was after, because I always think back to that moment when Feyre was like, gasp, they're here for Nesta. And I'm like, are we really too surprised? Like, you don't really bring anything like that anymore to the table. Like, of course they'd be after your sister. And if you think back to the Spring Court, it's not like the twins took her.
Right.
You know?
And they have plenty of opportunity to do so.
Absolutely. So in this hypothetical situation, Rhys probably expected to feel the break-in happen at one point, or at least be able to catch them faster than he actually was able to. And with all of this being said, Feyre makes a point of, hey, we learned a lot that they broke in. And Rhys said they showed their hand at this moment. I think strategy-wise, it makes perfect sense that you're saying, okay, I know they're going to reuse this. They're probably going to break in. Let's just be prepared. I feel like what if Rhys is shocked with, one, just how much he wasn't prepared, like he thought he was going to be, and two, shocked that Feyre would get dragged into this more than he expected.
Yeah. Because honestly, if Nesta was kidnapped, he'd probably be fine with it.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Well, I also feel like he's probably cocky enough to think like, I'll know when my wards are broken.
Right. And it's not going to be that easy for them to break in. They're not going to sneak in. I'm going to know they're here.
Yeah. I think it's like questionable that they even weren't able to feel the wards break in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like, maybe this is a moment that his ego was bigger than his actual game plan and consequences. But again, all hypothetical, people.
Yeah, we don't even know if that's the
I'm
case.
just making up shit to start shit.
Honestly, you're defending the plot device.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Which is not a bad thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Needless to say, the situation sucks, and Rhys is not pleased. He's so unhappy that he's unable to respond to Feyre's question about what's wrong via his Daemati skills, and instead answers aloud, showing his anger and vulnerability to Cassian and Nesta as well as Feyre. Interestingly enough, Feyre responds very rationally. It's almost as if the two of them have swapped roles. Feyre tells Rhys to calm down, quote, quietly, but not weakly. She talks him back from the edge.
Love that Rhys starts to go on this tangent and he starts to get really upset about it, and the fact that Feyre shuts him down by telling him to calm down. And it's just a reminder of a conversation you and I had, Amy, where telling someone to calm down is the worst thing to do.
Right.
You don't tell someone to calm down.
It also feels like a very sexist comment.
Yeah,
usually it's men to women.
Yes. I don't approve it when men say it to women. Love it that Feyre said it to Rhys.
Yeah.
But, you and I were talking about alternatives, and we were saying pump the brakes is a good one. So I read this scene as Feyre turning to Rhys and saying, pump the brakes. I said quietly, but not weakly.
For which there is no context in Prythian.
No. No, they wouldn't have context. Yeah. Yeah. But just don't tell people to calm down.
Slow your roll.
Hey, Rhys, slow your roll. I love that. Just don't tell people to calm down.
No. Feyre even thinks of Rhys as sloppy in this moment. Quote, Rhys had been sloppy in killing them, the Ravens. He'd taken what he needed, quickly and brutally, and ended it. He'd shown more restraint about the adder. In my mind, the only way to read this is Feyre is judging Rhys. But she is true to her promise from a few chapters ago and doesn't air this grievance aloud. Ironically, Feyre's thoughts are not unlike what I imagine Rhys would think of Feyre regarding her actions in the Spring Court, aka sloppy.
Yeah. I totally think Feyre expected something different, that Rhys was always the one out of the two of them who was put together, who had control. And now Rhys lost that control. He did the one thing that Feyre might have thought that he was never capable of doing.
I have a question. Is this the moment Rhys recommits to sacrificing himself for the greater good? Last week, I asked if Rhys was insincere when he promised Feyre that they would continue to have time together. Let's assume I was wrong, and that Rhys was being sincere in that moment. If this moment right now, Rhys goes back on that promise and decides he has to do all he can to prevent the worst, how do we feel as readers knowing that?
For sure. We already know Rhys hates himself. He's super, super hard on himself, and he takes the blame for what happened. But I'm also sure he's horrified that what he was willing and able to do to his enemies, to kill them in such a way. This whole thing with the ravens does not help with his self-love. That is for sure.
Absolutely. It helps with his self-sacrifice.
It reaffirms with what he thinks about himself, of like, I'm a monster.
Yep. I should die.
Yeah.
When Rhys shares with Feyre Cassian's memories of finding Nesta, there are some fascinating things we see from Cassian's perspective that I want to point out. Earlier in the novel, Cassian gave Feyre shit for being his high lady and his to protect. Yet when he goes to the library to save Feyre and Nesta, his thought is, Nesta was there, and Feyre. Feyre is an afterthought here.
How quickly he forgot about her. It's...
Who cares if she's the high lady?
You know, I've trained her. She's fine. Yeah. All right, the sister has no training. I need to be there for her.
Right, exactly. When Nesta approaches Cassian, quote, she let out a small animal sound like some wounded stag. While Feyre and Elain have been compared to the doe constantly, Nesta is a stag here, a noble creature capable of violence as much as peace.
I want to look at this through a perspective of gender. Nesta is the stag, a male deer, while Feyre and Elain are the doe, which are female deers. Doe, a deer, a female deer. Which I find to be such an interesting comparison when Feyre was the patriarchal figure in that family. I want to remind ourselves that this is coming from Cassian's point of view, that he is seeing Nesta as the stag. Feyre was always the one comparing herself and Elain to the doe, as if Feyre was always downplaying her own strength and viewed herself as weak. Again, I'm not saying that women are weak, but for the sake of lenses, that's what we're going there. Now you have Cassian, and he's giving Nesta that comparison, and what he sees is strength.
Which is great, since he's going to have to train her one day.
Yeah. But yeah, I would just find it kind of interesting where the fact that like Feyre always saw herself as a doe, when I wonder what Rhys might have seen her as.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because in some ways, especially early Feyre from Thorns and Roses, was as self-deprecating as Rhys is to himself. Had a lot of self-hatred, in my point of view at least.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that Feyre views herself as weak in Thorns and Roses.
And the comparison of doe and stag, the reason why I'm really not stuck on it, no, this is it. This is me being stuck. But out of all the animals in the animal world, because there's so many, but a stag has antlers, right? So it can hurt you.
Yeah. It is very dangerous.
Yeah. A doe can't.
Right.
So it's not like wolves, right? Or even lions.
Right.
Like there's a lot of animals that SJM, that Feyre could have picked here. And the fact that she chose doe, that's, again, not the only one out of the animal kingdom that the female are the weaker counterparts. But again, she didn't choose herself as anything else.
And she didn't begin to think of herself as a wolf until she was Fae.
Yeah, and it's like that now the gender has been removed.
Right.
By saying doe, you've gendered your animal.
Yeah, and you've gendered yourself.
Yeah. And now, you've chosen a gender of an animal where the gender is the one that isn't as strong as the male.
Right.
But wolf, equal strength there.
Yeah, doesn't matter what the gender is.
No. As it shouldn't.
Right, exactly.
Matter. I mean,
I find it fascinating, but maybe also heartbreaking that Rhys stops himself from touching Feyre when he, quote, sees the blood crusting on his fingers. This is a clear sign he feels unworthy of her, of touching her, because of his sins. I cannot wait to talk about this more, but let's save it for the next chapter.
Rhys, Cassian, Feyre, and Nesta return to the townhouse and reunite with the inner circle, and Rhys is adamant that this attack and other courts knowing about it would be a weakness. Quote, we can't afford to let the other High Lords know. It would unnerve them. and destabilize the image we've worked so hard to create. The repercussions of this, we can't have other people know what happened to us, is so fast that we didn't even add it to the breadcrumbs. Because we immediately, by the end of this episode, it ends with the summer court being attacked. You can add a little bit of ownership here of the fact that they chose, we can't share it to the other people. They'll think that we're weak and we can't do that. And what happens, the other courts aren't able to protect themselves.
Right. They're not prepared.
They're not prepared. And I'm not saying that this strategy is a bad thing, right? You gotta look in the politics of it all. You have to see, are they going to think that we're weak? Or other enemy courts going to try to invade? But the reason why I'm bringing it up is because of how much Tamlin said this at the start of Mist and Fury, and it was viewed negatively. And I will say, I don't agree with Tamlin's thing of, we have to appear united because of Feyre's, I don't know, they hadn't figured out her power situation yet there. Right. But you have something that's being said almost verbatim. And, I just want to point out the hypocrisy of a sentiment when we look at it one way and then we're looking at it another way now. It'd be like, yep, that's the move.
Yeah, it was bad on Tamlin's part. It's bad on Rhys's part now, too.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't know. I'm not in charge of a whole court.
Yeah, it's true.
Maybe I don't want people to know that we're in shambles. I'm not a politician.
Yeah, I'm not either.
I'm just here to critique.
I'm here to critique the politician.
Of a Fey court.
Of a made-up world.
Yeah.
Elain begins to retreat into her visions during this scene. And finally, Azriel suggests that Elain is a seer. Azriel likely knows about the queen who turned old at this point, which is what confirms his suspicions. Though he did do that disappearing act without informing Elain of his thoughts, he really is the only one who puts faith in Elain up until this point. And I feel like that must count for something, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me I'm pretty.
You're so pretty. So pretty. You keep fighting for that. Elain-riel, Azriel. Yeah.
Oh, Gwen-riel, El-riel.
Yeah, you guys just keep fighting for that good fight. Good job, sweetie.
Thanks.
I want to call out this savage moment when Elain is having another vision. Lucien gets nervous. Quote, does she need? She doesn't need anything. Azriel answered without so much as looking at Lucien. Damn!
Azriel here to shut people down.
He doesn't even look at him. She doesn't need anything.
She doesn't need you.
I just want to point out that during prep, Amy, when I read this, Amy, and I said, she doesn't need anything. And Amy just says, but my dick.
It's true.
And I just want to point out, I'm not the only one, okay? You do it too.
I do it too.
Yeah. The Patreon people get to hear it.
Well, now everybody gets to hear it.
Yeah, but they can hear the moment.
Yeah, that's true. At the start of chapter 33, Mor uses her powers to confirm that Elain is in fact a seer.
I love how Elain was the one who turned to Mor. Even in her seer moments, she knew. Look to the truth teller.
I'm going to share a thought I had while working on these notes that maybe explains why Elain turned to Mor and trusted Mor to be able to confirm things. So I don't really know how Mor's powers work, but if we look at all the times Mor has used her powers, I'm going to deduce the following. Mor cannot see all truth through her power. It's almost as if Mor must know the correct question to ask in any given situation in order to receive the truth. For example, previously, Mor could not look at Elain and know Elain was a seer. Instead, we had to wait for Azriel to suggest it and Elain to ask, is that what this is? Before Mor could confirm that, yes, Elain is a seer. The same can be said of Elain's own seer powers, which I discussed in last week's episode. As soon as the inner circle start asking Elain questions, Elain is able to discern answers through her sight, but only things that have happened so far. Which means I don't see a lot of difference between Elain and Mor's powers, except that Mor can discern truth that is right in front of her, while Elain can discern truth in the world as it is in the present.
Wow. I love that. I love that note so much. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I love that you're starting to make sense of Mor's power. Dare I say, maybe even adding a little depth to it.
Maybe.
I'm impressed. But I think you're right. Mor has to look for the truth. Plus, Mor and Elain both see the truth in some regards. And as you were saying, I can also see the connection that is happening here, that Mor and Elain are very similar. And I'm curious as to how many other connections we're going to see between the two, since Azriel will slowly be shifting his attention from one to the other.
Good point. They might have a lot more in common than we know. Maybe Elain is bi.
Oh my God, I would love that. Don't tempt me with a good time.
Yeah.
That's I read that so fast.
Yeah, same. Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because you know I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like, my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.
Move your career further, faster in just 2 days with a Harvard Professional and Executive Development Program. Advance your leadership skills, craft smarter business strategies, build your network, and transform how you work and think to keep your career moving forward. You'll earn a certificate and can add Harvard to your resume with Harvard Professional and Executive Development. Learn more at professional.dce.harvard.edu/Spotify.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
When Mor insists on going to look for Vassa to gain mortal allies, Cassian insists that Mor is needed in Prythian and, quote, on a battlefield, not traipsing through the continent. This feels ironic to me since Mor spends so much time watching the battles from afar and at Feyre's side rather than spending time on the battlefield. Though Mor is needed and is useful when she does actually engage in those battles.
Totally. But we know that she is basically Feyre's babysitter and she's on babysitting duty. So that's what her usefulness is for, which is super sad when you think about it. But if I was Mor, I would also want to do something useful.
Yeah, I don't blame her. Mor continues to push Rhys when Rhys demands Mor stay. I think this goes back to our conversation about Mor and Rhys in episodes 9 and 10. Maybe Mor isn't being very good at compartmentalizing right now and is pushing Rhys, unwilling to fall in line.
Mor isn't wrong in insisting that they go, that this needs to be checked out. Although bullshit that they don't have someone else in the court or in the army or something that they trust, but I'll ignore that for now and move on. I read this as Mor being difficult for the sake of pissing off Rhys and arguing with him. I'm sure Mor could have suggested that someone else go, right? It felt like there was another solution there. Instead, she insists that she's the one on going. She's supposed to be his third. She's supposed to be in charge of the Court of Nightmares. Like, it's just dumb to think that you're the one to go.
Right. There's plenty of other people who can go do that work.
Yeah. To me, it was just like your job is busy. You can't do it. And she's being annoying. Not annoying, but to me, it's just showing that she's still pissed off at Rhys.
Absolutely. She's being difficult for the sake of being difficult because we know Rhys has said when Azriel and Cassian die, Mor goes in. So, of course, he wants her there because he's not confident they're going to win.
Absolutely.
Mor, I understand you, but calm down.
Yeah, everyone,
Pump the brakes.
Pump the brakes more. I mean, we're about to get into it with Feyre too, because it's like everyone's adjusting themselves. It's just stupid.
It is. No one's thinking strategically right now.
I'm thinking about like, okay, am I a Fae? No. But I'm thinking about my corporate job. And it's not like when someone's like, someone in the finance team is called out sick today. And me and my marketing ass isn't like, you guys, I'll do it.
Yeah, right.
Right? Like, it's just not in your job description to go.
Right. Speaking of which, Feyre thinks, quote, vital. Each of them was vital here. But me... So we've spoken before about how we don't think Feyre truly thinks of herself as not good enough or not useful. At first glance, this quote comes across as her thinking she's not needed, that she isn't worthwhile or isn't capable. But let's actually re-examine this. Feyre doesn't think, quote, I wasn't vital. In fact, I think she's merely implying I wasn't vital here, emphasis on here, which to me means that Feyre thinks she might in fact be more useful out there, which doesn't go against what we've been saying. And especially last week when I was like, well, Feyre's not really doing anything right now.
Yeah.
So of course she's like, oh, well, I'm
researching.
Right.
I'm researching right now.
And I haven't found any useful research, so I might as well go be useful somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean, it's valid. Also, the talk of vital versus not vital. They aren't saying that this is not an important mission. It's just that whoever goes doesn't need to be at the inner circle right then and there. But is this moment realistic? I don't mean that Feyre thinking that she's not worthy being realistic, but the fact that Feyre is willing to go, because that means she'd have to leave Rhys, who is clearly a wreck. He is covered in blood. He is sad a lot of the times now. Yeah. You're going to just leave him? Plus, when she got back from the spring court, Feyre and Rhys, they made these promises never again to leave each other like that. And you're just going to go. She doesn't even consider him.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's a realistic move on her part.
I thought a lot about this after prep, and I do feel like it's in character for her, because if we think about all the times where she's sacrificed herself, she's abandoned someone in order to sacrifice herself for someone else. Mm-hmm. And in this case, though, she doesn't want to be apart from Rhys. The goal at the end of the day is to defeat Hybern so all of Prythian is able to remain intact so that she is able to be with Rhys and so that Rhys doesn't have to sacrifice himself. So if she truly believes that finding mortal allies will help win the war, Rhys can deal. I'm going to go find those allies because that means he gets to stay alive.
Yeah. Like, I get it. I get what you're saying because she has always sacrificed herself like that. But it just feels like they've made too many promises to one another as of late.
And she's demanded those things.
Exactly. And that's the okay, so yes, it's in character for her to leave. Totally. You're right. But she's not right now. I mean,
it's a bad time.
It's a bad time for that right now. She's trying to get the Ouroboros. She's busy having sex all the time. It's just not the right time.
Yeah, she's not reading the room. She's not reading the blood on the floor.
Blood on the hands.
Yeah.
Lucian decides that he's going, and once that's settled, and Cassian says that he'll load Lucian up with Illyrian steel, quote, Elain now watched Lucian warily, blinking every now and then. She revealed no hint of what she might be sensing. None. Okay. Elain had a vision about Lucian. She had a vision about Lucian, and we don't talk about that. I don't see this ever on TikTok. Mm-hmm. I think Elain had a vision about Lucian, and I'm so curious as to what she saw because we know that probably is what's making her so hesitant about Lucian. My money is that she saw the two of them together and happy and got freaked out because she just got out of this haze, right? Realizes that she has a mate and is probably a little overwhelmed right now and might be having a vision of who's this hot redhead? What?
And was just confirmed that she's a seer.
Yeah.
Because up until now, she didn't know what was happening.
And even though Lucian's not pushing himself on her, the vision, like if you got a vision like that and it's just so vivid and you're like, oh, I don't need you to tell me I'm going to be with this person.
Right.
And then Feyre, Rhys, and Nesta leave Lucian and Elain to talk alone, or as Feyre says, talk or not talk. The one time Feyre has decided to not be nosy is the one time I need it.
It's true.
We know SJM is going to do a book about Elain, and I have no doubt that this scene, these sequences here, is going to be told from her perspective one day.
Yeah. Whether it's told in the present or the past.
Yeah,
like
I think it's
retelling.
I think it's going to be like a flashback.
Yeah, I think you're right. I totally glazed over the fact that she has basically a vision at this moment.
Yeah.
And I always wondered why she approached Lucian. She comes down the stairs as he's packing up to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And she stops herself, or he leaves before she starts. And I've always wondered why. And it would totally make sense if she saw a vision of him.
And then just like, you know, her last conscious, well thought out thought was like, I'm going to get married to Grayson. Oh no, I'm being kidnapped. Oh no, I'm being put in a cauldron, right? And then she has this big haze of visions and what's reality, what's not. Mm-hmm. Finally clears up, only to be told in a way of like, you gotta mate.
Yeah.
That'd be overwhelming.
That would be overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the next ACOTAR book.
Damn it, I need this book.
After Lucian exclaims he'll be the one to go search for Vasa, the group disperses, with Feyre and Rhys heading to their bedroom. If you didn't notice, Feyre has an aversion to Rhys right now. Quote, I made myself take Rhys's hand, flinching at the blood still caked on his skin. This is an odd reaction from Feyre, who received no judgment from Rhys for her actions at the Spring Court, who was met with joy, and let's face it, it was a huge turn-on for Rhys, or at least it seemed like it in the moment. Yet Feyre appears to struggle with the blood on his hands in this moment. Is she like Cassian and Azriel and concerned that Rhys has done something he didn't have to do?
I like to imagine that this is a reality check for Feyre. She was the one who thought for the longest time that she's this badass who's just with this bloodlust and, you know, I'll kill anyone who puts the people I love in danger. But Feyre's never gotten her hands dirty like this. I mean, she even had Ianthe smash her own hands, right?
Yeah, that's true. She didn't do it herself.
No, yeah. So she never, I mean, she stabbed people, sure, but not like this, right? Mm-hmm. What Feyre is seeing is evidence of a bloodlust that she talks about, but this is the truth. This is the reality. And I think she's a little shocked by that.
Yeah, that's fair. Feyre works up the nerve to ask Rhys why he didn't shield his hands. And he admits, quote, I wanted to feel it, their lives ending beneath my fingers. This is Rhys's monster within that we're seeing. Feyre herself acknowledges this when she thinks, quote, I'd seen him in a rage before, but never so detached, as if morality and kindness were things that lurked on a surface far, far above the frozen depths that he plunged into.
When Rhys tells Feyre he's not mad at her for making the bargain, how did you react, Amy? Because when I saw that, I just kind of snorted and thought like, yeah, no shit. You don't get to be mad. I made the right call.
Right, exactly. It's so true. Like, I'm not mad, by the way. Well, I never asked.
Yeah, now I'm mad that you said that you're not mad because you don't get to be mad. I saved myself.
Also, you're the asshole who put me in the bargain a first time.
Yeah.
When we were under the mountain. So, tough shit. I get to make a bargain with whoever I want to make a bargain with.
And it was such a baby easy bargain.
It's true.
Like, that's a great deal.
No, it's true. Braxis did not ask Feyre to come visit her for a week every month.
Right? Like, I was very like, look, I've made some questionable bargains in my life, dear.
Yeah.
Honey.
This is mild by comparison.
Seriously. You know what Braxis didn't do? Twist my broken arm to get me to agree. You dick.
True. Oh, man. Oh, Reese boy.
Oh, Reese.
Feyre washes Rhys's hands in the bathtub. Up until this point, Rhys has been helping Feyre bathe. Now, it's Feyre's turn to reciprocate. Just as Feyre has previously told Rhys she sees all of him and she's not afraid, this time she's showing that same sentiment through her actions. This goes back to my discussion from episode 9, I think, where I suggest the two of them are each other's Ouroboros. What this tells me is that Rhys sees all of Feyre and accepts her for all she is, despite her lack of cleanliness, and vice versa. They are the perfect dirty pair.
Dirty pair.
Dirty. When Feyre tells Rhys that what happened with the ravens and the King of Hybern is not his fault, the, quote, words filled the sun-drenched bathing room. Despite the events of the day, I think Feyre's honest here. She doesn't hold Rhys at fault, even though he does. She speaks with hope, and that's reflected in the sun, which is also significant because of their mating bond, reflecting the strength of their connection. Which, by the way, Rhys demeans when he says he'll raise Feyre's salary, quote, for her sage counsel and all the other vital services you provide me.
Yeah.
What a great way to just, like...
Ruin a moment. Yeah, it's like, we're having this, like, great emotional moment, and now you want to cheapen me? Like, first off, yes, you have to pay me now.
Yeah. Yes, I demand a raise.
You offered, you can't take it back now.
Yeah.
But also, like, we were having a moment.
Yeah. But it also goes back to this idea that sex and death are intertwined. Mm-hmm. Rhys committed death. He committed death.
He committed death.
Rhys committed murder and has to play it off with the idea of sex.
But, you know, Feyre has a history of forgiving with sex.
Yeah. So
he's only playing into what's been established with them.
Yeah, it's true.
My reactions are different. And that's why there's not a book about me. Because it would be weird. People would be like, none of this is logical. And I'd be like, never said I was.
Doesn't have to be.
No. I want to look at the actions of the cleaning of Rhys's hands. Feyre sits Rhys down at the edge of the tub, not inside the tub. Because Rhys isn't able to cleanse himself of his sins yet, what he needs right now is Feyre's understanding. And that's what the washing of the hands is supposed to symbolize. Feyre washes Rhys's hands one hand at a time, and she takes great care trying to get every little bit. Quote, I scrubbed at his nails, the blood wedged into the cracks where it met his skin, the arcs beneath. Rhys and Feyre are having a very intense conversation about his actions, and Rhys is confessing, which is why Feyre is the one to hear him and clean him. Once the cleaning is done, she uses a cloth to soothe and relax him. There's also a reason why this chapter ends with Feyre drying Rhys's hands with an ivory towel. Ivory being white, aka good, aka forgiveness. If Rhys still had any blood, aka sins, on his hands, it would then stain the towel. But he doesn't, because she forgives him, he's good, clean hands.
Yep, it's beautiful imagery.
I would still need a shower.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you still killed someone?
Yeah.
You know?
Go take a shower.
Yeah, like, I'm happy we got those done now. Go wash.
I love that SJM ends that chapter with Rhys's monster within, only to start chapter 34 with Amren's. We talked about a lot of Old Testament references last episode, and we get to see another one here. When Moses attempted to negotiate with King Ramses of Egypt to liberate the Jews from slavery, Ramses refused over and over again. The Old Testament God sent various forms of plagues to Egypt in response. The last plague, which resulted in the liberation of the Jewish people, was a plague that killed all the firstborn children in Egypt. The only reason the Jewish people were spared from its effects was because they painted their doors with lamb's blood, which was a sign of their devotion to their God, who spared their children. In Velaris, the evening Amren goes to hunt for Hybern assassins and spies, the people paint their thresholds with lamb's blood, some even leaving out cups for Amren as an offering. I love this because it goes back to the theory, which SJM has confirmed, that Amren is an avenging angel, but she also happens to be the plague.
Yeah.
Quote, she was the monster that defended them from the other horrors of the world. And it's really, really cool.
There's a lot of biblical connections between Amren. Like, they just keep mounting. And SJM uses a lot from Old Testament, from Greek mythology. I think there was even the connection you made last week was you referenced it in the biblical sense, but there's also a Greek mythology to that too.
Yeah, and which I should have mentioned last time. We were talking about like Lot's wife, Sodom and Gomorrah, when Feyre looks back at Rhys, when Rhys goes to kill the ravens. There's also definitely Greek mythology references of people going to the underworld. I forget what his name is. To save his dead wife, who's a nymph.
Oh, right.
And he looks back to make sure she's still there right before they leave the underworld, and then they both end up getting stuck there.
I mean, these are classic stories told in so many different ways, but they're all kind of very similar, and I just love that, you know, it's just all a retelling.
Yeah.
It's great.
They're good, and they get retold because they're good, and they achieve a certain thing.
Yeah.
And here, it just makes Amren a badass.
What would people have to smear on their doors for you to stay away? Mine would be cheese.
I know yours would be cheese, but that was never a question. What would they have to leave out for me or smear on the door?
I know what it'd be.
Chocolate?
Saint Germain.
Oh, yeah. It would have to be Saint Germain for sure. But I'd also accept hot chocolate.
Hot chocolate specifically. Not just chocolate. It has to be hot chocolate.
It has to be like a Starbucks hot chocolate.
Just smeared on the front door. So we go lick it?
I know. I was like, how does that work?
What are we doing? Because I'm not going to say no to cheese, even if it's on a door.
What if the door is made of cheese?
What if there's crackers next to the door? Just dip it into the cheese door.
Makes me think of Willy Wonka.
I'd be the Willy Wonka of cheese. Oh my God. I want to go to that factory.
Yeah, that would be great. In the wake of the Ravens' attack, Feyre seems to think that Mor and Rhys mend bridges as the two spend hours with the priestesses in the library, comforting the priestesses and assuring them of their safety. Do we think this is truly the case? I will say it is meaningful that Mor and Rhys come to peace because of their identities as survivors, while they're helping other survivors when, their original fight was about their abusers.
I think it's fair. Both Mor and Rhys, like you said, are survivors, and Rhys used that in his negotiation process against Mor, and then Mor used Rhys's trauma against him. They both needed to reconnect, so it makes sense that they do that in a place that's meant for survivors to heal, since it was the subject of their argument.
Yep. When Feyre sees Lucien before he takes off for the continent in search of Vassa, all I could see was Feyre getting ready to go to the Weaver's cottage in Mist and Fury. Why, you ask? Lucien wears Illyrian leathers, just like Feyre did for the first time when she went to the Weaver's. Lucien's hair is braided, like Feyre's was most of Mist and Fury. He even takes a bow and arrows. That was Feyre's weapon of choice as a human. You could almost say that Lucien's search for Vassa is like Feyre's search for the ring at the Weaver's cottage. It's a test of loyalty to the Night Court.
I love that. I love it so much. I mean, it's a test of loyalty to the Night Court, but to their mate as well,
Also, yep.
I mean, because what did Feyre bring back? She brought back Rhys's mother's ring.
Right.
What does Lucien bring back? Her father.
Yep.
I love that. I love the point that you made because it really is similar. It's like, all right, well, I'm off to go earn your respect and love.
I don't think that Lucien does it.
He doesn't do it for Elain.
No, he doesn't do it with the belief that Elain will then love him.
Yeah.
I think he does it because he feels like it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
He knows it needs to be done. He sees that he can provide help.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't want Prythian to be ruled by Hybern.
No. I mean, Lucien does say something like that where it's like, it's time that I start doing something.
Yeah.
And there's definitely an Elain factor. Like, I know I just said that he doesn't do it for Elain, but I'm not going to pretend like there isn't an Elain factor there.
Right.
It's kind of curious that the second Elain becomes more
lucid,
coherent and lucid, thank you, that's the moment he leaves.
Yeah.
Almost as if he thinks he's not worthy enough for her and doesn't want to see her rejection of him.
Mm-hmm. So let's avoid the rejection by going off and exploring the world.
And saving everyone and doing what's right. Because the second Lucien saw Elain in the first place, his first words were, my mate.
Mm-hmm.
She starts being more lucid and looks at him and she's not jumping up and down for joy.
Right.
So why does he want to risk any kind of rejection?
Right. I feel that.
I
would run away too.
Oh, baby boy. I love Lucien. Wow.
Whoa.
I didn't mean to say that.
It was a Freudian slip.
I don't mean it, guys. No, I do.
Nesta, on the other hand, snaps at Rhys when he calls Elain, quote, our new seer. Nesta isn't okay with Rhys giving Elain a Fae identity that is indicative of her powers, which is super ironic since Nesta is literally sitting there practicing her own Fae powers.
Yep. I mean, I completely agree. I think there's also that other element that Nesta is also pissed off because Rhys says our new seer, because let's be real, Elain is now an asset to Rhys, and Nesta knows Rhys well enough now to see how his mind works. He sees an asset, he'll use it.
Yep, absolutely.
The angst that goes on between Elain and Lucien. Just, I eat it up. Eat it up. The fact that they just look at one another, Elain at the top of the stairs and Lucien ready to go, and not say anything. It's perfect. It's perfection.
It is.
When Lucien sees that Elain isn't going to come down, he's polite and he does the courteous little nod thing to her. And right as he turns to leave, Elain starts to go down the stairs. I mean, she takes half a step as they describe, but that's enough. I bet when it's Elaine's time to have her own story, we're going to discover that she's probably the most stubborn sister in her own way out of all of them.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I'll be so excited for that.
So I just had a thought. In my mind, Elain is the people pleaser.
Yeah.
She wants to make sure she does what everybody else wants. To what extent does she feel Feyre's desire for Elain to be with Azriel that she feels the need to not be with Lucien?
I think you just unlock something.
Right?
I mean, and not just Feyre's expectation, but the fact that you have 3 bat boys for 3 sisters.
Right?
It's
a formula.
It's a formula. And, and then there's Azriel's expectations and hopes that ends up being there. And again, I'm not saying that Elain never has a crush on Azriel. It's Azriel, of course.
Of course.
Who wouldn't have a crush on him? But I love that idea of wouldn't it make everyone happy?
Yeah.
Versus being with the guy who was best friends with my sister's abuser.
Yeah, best friends with the guy who got us killed and turned into Faye.
Because that's a lot harder than being with someone that everyone already loves.
Yep.
Freaking great. That book has probably already been mapped out.
Oh, absolutely.
SJM said that she likes to write the next book that she's writing, kind of map it out while she's writing the one actively. So she's always kind of one book ahead, which means, spoiler for Multiverse. Okay, we're all back. I bet there's going to be tons of breadcrumbs in the 3rd Crescent City book for Elain specifically.
I believe it.
I just want to scream into my pillow. We don't even know if there's a date yet. I don't know. So whenever this is published, I hope to God by the time that this episode is published, we know when Crescent City 3 is coming out.
Yeah, that would be nice.
But as of today, we don't know, and it hurts me.
Yep. And then the chapter ends when Amren crashes in and announces that the summer court has been attacked by Hybern.
Dun, dun, dun.
But we'll leave all that for next week.
Let's look at some breadcrumbs, as always. Spoiler to Multiverse and Silver Flames. Yeah, it's just spoiler. In chapter 32, when Cassian finds Nesta in the library, quote, her fear was a tang that whetted his rage into something so sharp he could barely think, barely breathe. Because Cassian is Nesta's mate.
And if we didn't think it in this book, how could we? How could we not think it?
How could we? It really is half their book.
Yeah.
It's half Nesta's book, too.
Yep.
The slow burn between them.
Love it.
Which is why I don't think we're going to get another Nesta book.
Yep. Also in chapter 32, when Nesta grabs Cassian, quote, strength, such untapped strength in that slim, beautiful body, which foreshadows Cassian training Nesta in Silver Flames.
Chapter 33, we've got a lot of storylines that are initiated in this chapter that are not resolved yet in ACOTAR world, but are worth pointing out. Vasa has been sold to Koschei, a sorcerer lord / death god who possesses an onyx box that is more vital than anything save the girls he keeps who are swans by day at a lake. Also, girls? Girls, that's plural. That's plural.
Feels very Swan Lake to me.
Very Swan Lake, very Odette.
Yeah.
But who are those other women?
One of our listeners sent us a theory that Elain will become one of those other women, which I would love to see.
Yeah. I mean, I'm almost at this point, one of these women might be from Crescent City world. Yeah, I said it.
What if he makes Bryce one of these girls?
No, because that's the last book of that trilogy.
True. All right. Also in chapter 33, we don't know much about Vasa other than her nickname. Quote, she goes by Vasa, but I never got a report with her full name. Whenever someone has a name or obvious lack of name, it comes into play at one point or another.
Yep. Feyre says, quote, if we can find Vasa, she could be vital in convincing the human forces to fight and giving us an ally on the continent. Feyre isn't wrong, though it's Lucien and Papa Archeron who will do the work to make this happen.
And last but not least, also in chapter 33, Feyre thinks, quote, "The severing of the mating bond. I shut out the thought of what it do to me." A not so subtle foreshadowing that Feyre will indeed encounter this and not handle it very well at all.
What? Anyway.
Yeah.
I got a question.
Okay.
How does guilt influence everyone's actions?
Oh, I did not think about this enough after prep. Let me start with Lucien. Lucien makes a very big sacrifice by being like, I'll be the one to go search the continent, to find Vasa, to bring back a human army.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know if he's going to succeed. He doesn't know if he's going to die in the process. But I think he feels a lot of guilt having left Tamlin.
Yeah.
I think he feels a lot of guilt about Elain.
Yep.
And as we said earlier, it's easier for him to escape than face real consequences.
But escaping by helping. So it's like,
yeah.
Talk about the biggest win.
Right.
He gets to escape with a purpose.
Right.
The dream.
Yeah, it's true. Like, he gets accolades for doing it, but really he's probably doing it also out of guilt of like, I'm not being useful. I left my best friend.
He helped Hybern.
Yeah, exactly. He helped Hybern. And also, I mean, it probably also doesn't help that he doesn't feel like he has a home right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think without those feelings, he probably would have stuck around in the Night Court.
This whole section has been about guilt too, like with Rhys and the guilt that he feels and the fact that he has to go to Feyre. And I think part of that guilt is what helps him and Mor find a resolution.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm sure Mor feels guilty that Lucian's the one who's leaving. And, you know, like everyone feels guilty to the point where the fact that Nesta leaves Elain to be alone with Lucien, I feel like she feels guilty too. That maybe she didn't catch that her sister was a seer.
Mm-hmm. And thought she was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I think also, we haven't mentioned Feyre. And I think Feyre feels guilty for judging Rhys.
Mm-hmm.
Because she does have kind of that aversion to his blood at first.
Yeah.
And thinks of him as sloppy. But she does take the time to wash his hands.
Yeah.
To show that she cares. And I think she wouldn't have done that if she didn't feel guilty.
Yeah.
She wouldn't feel guilty that he felt the need to act out that way.
Well, yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, I mean, I think Feyre would wash his hands because she saw that he needed it.
Mm-hmm.
But even though she was attacked and even though we're not seeing this, I can definitely understand that guilt of like, shit, my mate just didn't have to, but my mate like brought himself to a level that he hates for me.
Yeah.
He's capable of his own actions and everything,
right.
But, you know, you can't help the guilt you feel sometimes.
Right. My mate became unhinged because of a situation I was in.
Yeah.
And
even if it's not her fault and not his fault.
Right.
It's still like, I mean, anyone would feel guilty.
Yeah.
Anyone has anxiety like we do.
Yeah, it's true. So, yeah, a lot of guilt going around here.
And it won't end.
No, not at all.
Because especially as we go into the summer court attack.
Mm-hmm.
And they get to see Tarquin again.
Yep. Ooh, lots of feelings of guilt coming up.
So much feelings. And now, let's read some of our reviews.
This is from I'm Still Bejeweled, titled English Class If I Enjoyed It.
Wait, that's a Taylor Swift reference.
I know.
I really love it.
I know.
Oh.
Listening to this podcast has helped me understand one of my favorite series on a deeper level in which I hadn't visited before. These ladies do such a wonderful job blending their professional experience with lighthearted humor and references to pop culture. They make me feel like I'm analyzing my favorite books with good friends. 10 out of 10 love them.
Aw. I love when people say it feels like they're talking to friends because in my mind, we're all friends.
We are all friends. And I just love that people feel like they can talk to us.
Yeah. I love when people are like, I'm responding to you in my car.
Yeah. That always cracks me up.
Yeah.
But I get it.
I do. I get it because like I listen to other podcasts and I feel the same way. So the fact that anyone remotely likes us always blows my mind. And I'm entirely grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to be featured in one of our weekly reviews, please go to Apple Podcasts and write in a 5-star review. Pretty please. Thank you. Love you. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Book Talk for Book Talk. We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. Next week, we'll be exploring chapters 35 through 40 of A Court of Wings and Ruin.
We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. You can submit your comments to our form at booktalkforbooktalk.com for a chance to have your feedback discussed during a weekly mini episode.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting our show through Patreon, Ko-Fi, or Venmo. You can also follow us on TikTok or Instagram at the handle booktalkforbooktalk. Bye!
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because you know I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like, my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.